Greetings, I'm Charlie, aged 23, freshly settled in Philadelphia for my debut professional role as a marketing assistant at a compact downtown agency. It may not be glamorous, but its consistency is rewarding following college. The transition was initially thrilling. New city, new flat, new experiences. However, the tranquil evenings began to feel strange once the unpacking was done. I don't know many people here yet. My colleagues are cordial, but they mostly have personal lives, families, and commitments that keep them busy outside work. Typically, I return home after work, heat up a quick meal, and spend an extended period on my phone. This is why I enrolled in the drawing class to break the monotony. I've always had a liking for drawing since my younger years, but school and work seldom left room for leisure activities. Now seemed like the ideal moment to resume. If you share the same interest in drawing, feel free to comment. Twice weekly, the class convened in a compact community hall close to Fairmount. It was modestly furnished with some long tables, folding chairs, and the soft buzz of aged fluorescent lights. Everyone seemed familiar except for you. On the inaugural night, I attempted to be unassuming, though my nerves betrayed me. A few others had already arranged themselves, mostly elderly individuals chatting softly while they organized their sketch pads and sharpened pencils. I chose a seat by the window, laid out my belongings, and struggled not to glance at the clock. Then she entered. I didn't know her name then, but she captivated me instantly. Not due to flashiness or loudness, but quite the contrary. She moved with tranquil, quiet assurance which made the entire room seem more intimate. Around middle age, perhaps older, yet graceful. She wore a dark coat over a simple sweater. Her hair was loosely tied back and moved slowly. Dear friends, please help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. She surveyed the room momentarily before settling into a chair nearby, distant enough that I could sense a subtle fragrance of her perfume, nothing overpowering. I cast my eyes downward to avoid staring too much. A while later, Paul, our instructor, started the class. He explained we'd learn basic form shading techniques and easy exercises to help everyone unwind. I concentrated on my drawing, striving to create a passable circle that didn't resemble a squashed tomato. That was when she commented. "Not bad," she said softly, looking at my work with a hint of a smile. I looked up somewhat surprised. She had kind eyes and a warm expression. "I've definitely seen worse circles," she quipped playfully. I chuckled, feeling a bit more composed. "That's reassuring. I'm aiming for mediocre tonight. Maybe next week I'll attempt something recognizable." Her smile grew wider. "That sounds like a reasonable goal. Set achievable expectations?" I replied with a grin. "By the way, my name is Charlie," Emma responded, extending her hand for a gentle shake. Her touch was soft and her grip was casual. It was pleasant to make your acquaintance. The rest of the class proceeded smoothly afterward. We exchanged minor comments occasionally, nothing particularly important. Occasionally, I noticed her casting glances in my direction, and our gazes would briefly meet before she resumed sketching. When the class ended, we gathered our belongings at a leisurely pace, both of us hesitant to speak. As we stepped out into the cool evening air, she effortlessly fell into step beside me. "First day jitters out of the way," she commented. I let out a sigh. "Yes, it seems so. I managed to endure my initial public sketching anxiety." She emitted a soft chuckle. "That's good. The most challenging part is showing up." We walked together for a few blocks, discussing unimportant matters such as jobs, moving to the city, and her role as an interior designer. She mentioned that she had been divorced for a while but didn't linger on the topic. Her calm demeanor indicated that she had come to terms with much already. We halted at the intersection where we parted ways. She questioned with a gentle tone, "See you on Thursday?" To which I quickly responded, "Yes, Thursday." She flashed another smile and moved on down the quiet street, leaving me standing for a moment before I moved on too. Philadelphia felt less solitary. The approaching class was more welcome than ever. I tried to keep my expectations in check. After all, it was just a casual chat with a classmate. But when Thursday arrived, I showed up earlier than normal. Emma followed not long after. Her arrival brought a smile that lingered, one we might have shared as old friends. That simple, genuine smile lingered in my thoughts longer than I cared to admit. She settled into the same spot as before, yet one seat away. It was almost as if we both unconsciously decided this was our spot now, ready for round two. She joked lightly as she opened her sketchbook. "I couldn't let my shoddy circles jeopardize my career." She chuckled gently, and the tension eased once more. That evening, Paul, our instructor, covered fundamental shading practices. Meanwhile, others diligently sketched. Emma and I conversed subtly during brief interludes. Speaking with her felt effortless and more organic than I had anticipated from someone newly acquainted. Amid my pencil strokes, I learned snippets of her history. Originally from New Jersey, she moved to Philadelphia following graduation, married young, and divorced a few years later. She didn't have kids, but adored her niece. As an interior designer, she predominantly worked on residential projects with occasional small commercial spaces. She spoke about her job with confidence, as if she had always known her purpose. When the conversation shifted to me, I felt somewhat less extraordinary. "Marketing assistant," I replied casually, essentially spending my day replying to emails and arranging meetings for individuals who seem busier than they actually are. She smiled in response. It seems her first real job, apartment, and living independently are proving to be as expected, challenging yet rewarding. She admitted a laugh in response, acknowledging the similarity with most jobs. Despite the struggle at times, she's learning, adaptively adjusting to everything. Her earlier tension eased, hinting at potential wisdom beyond her overt expression. In class, her focus on the clock waned, a sign of growing familiarity and comfort. Exiting together felt more effortless compared to before. As we neared the corner, she asked if I was hungry, a question that took me by surprise. A nearby coffee shop offered late-night service, and she guided us there. The cozy cafe was calm and warm, offering a serene sanctuary amidst the bustling city outside. We procured 2 coffees and selected a secluded table. The dialogue remained casual, encompassing topics like music, movies, or travel. She recounted her lone trip to Italy post-divorce, an experience marked by hardship, yet liberation. I shared my struggle to complete college without exhaustion, and how Philadelphia still felt somewhat overwhelming. She subtly commented, "In time, it will seem less daunting. Cities tend to appear smaller as you spend more time in them." We continued chatting until the lights started dimming for closure. Upon stepping back onto the sidewalk, the cold night air was bearable. The city lights sparkled on the damp pavement from the previous rain shower, creating a fleeting sense of ease. "Thank you for the coffee," I expressed. "Of course," she responded with a smile. "See you on Monday." "Yes, Monday," I replied. I couldn't express adequately how elegantly she moved. I knew I looked forward to seeing her again, not just in class. By the 3rd week, encountering Emma became my favorite aspect of the class. Regarding the drawing aspect, I was indeed improving, yet it was those silent, private moments that truly mattered. Her sidelong glances, casual smiles, and light-hearted remarks during warm-ups transformed the evenings. We found ourselves in sync, occupying the same spots, exchanging small jokes, then departing together, Neither of us articulated it explicitly, but our satisfaction with the situation was palpable. By Monday evening's class end, the rain had started pouring. I hadn't consulted the weather report, so I stood at the door peering out at the downpour. Emma joined me and unfurled a compact black umbrella. "Aren't you going to brave it?" she questioned. I hesitated. Clearly, I hadn't foreseen that eventuality. Without uttering another word, she angled the umbrella slightly toward me. "Let's share it," she suggested. After a brief pause, I stepped under its shelter beside her. Due to the compact size of the umbrella, we had to walk closely together, our arms occasionally touching and sending brief electric sensations. As we traversed the block, the rain lessened to a gentle sprinkle. The streets glimmered under the warm orange hue of city lights, giving an air of tranquility as if the entire city was momentarily pausing for us. At the usual separation point, Emma hesitated. "Do you have a few moments?" she inquired. "There's a cozy spot just ahead," she indicated forward. "It's dry, warm, and serves excellent tea." I subtly agreed, my pulse quickening slightly. Of course, we entered a previously unnoticed tea shop. Inside, melodious music played softly, with a gentle scent of ginger and honey permeating the air. We found a secluded corner table tucked away from the entrance. Over steaming cups of tea, our conversation delved into subtler topics. "At times, I feel like I'm experiencing life in reverse," I shared. Emma looked at you, smiling softly before saying, "There isn't a single path to self-discovery, Charlie." After a brief pause, you asked if she knew her life's direction when she was your age. She chuckled lightly and admitted she had no clue. At that time, she thought she had everything figured out, getting married, settling down. However, she did what she believed was expected of her. In a calm, yet resolute tone, she added that now she tries to make choices that feel right, not just those deemed correct. The gentle hum of the tea shop filled the silence between you both, without any tension or haste. As we prepared to depart, she donned her coat with poise and smoothed her collar. Upon exiting the street, the rain had subsided, leaving behind a crisp and invigorating atmosphere. "Thank you for your company," she murmured softly. I responded affirmatively, maintaining eye contact for a prolonged moment. It crossed my mind if she noticed the duration. Maybe she did. She met my eyes for a fleeting instant before smiling and departing. I remained stationary for a spell prior to departing myself, my thoughts swirling. Whatever was transpiring between us was delicate but authentic. With each goodnight exchange, I felt it deepen incrementally. By then, encountering Emma became a commonplace aspect of my week. What astounded me was how naturally everything unfolded. No burden, no unwelcome titles. There was an allure in our gradual, unforced progression that captivated me. That Thursday, Paul disclosed a minor alteration. Instead of class, he proposed an optional trip to a nearby gallery to view a new display focusing on cityscapes and architectural sketches. Most of the class planned to explore together, but as evening arrived, students gradually withdrew. When I got there, Emma was already waiting by the gallery entrance. She donned a lengthy dark coat over a modest navy dress, her hair loose around her face. She flashed a smile when she saw me. "Seems like it's just us," she said, to which I agreed instinctively. The museum was dimly lit, its walls adorned with black and white sketches of Philadelphia rooftops, bridges, and narrow alleyways. We sauntered at a leisurely pace, occasionally chatting or standing silently side by side. We eventually stopped in front of an immense work, a meticulous pencil drawing of an old row house reminiscent of those on this city's streets. She whispered, "There's something soothing about drawings like these." The level of detail is tangible. I stole a glance. Her contemplative gaze on the item drew my attention to it anew. "Have you ever pondered living somewhere else?" I inquired. She gave a faint smile. "Once upon a time, yes. Post-divorce, I mulled over leaving Philadelphia altogether, beginning afresh somewhere different. Yet, I'm undecided. This city may eventually grow on you." A pause ensued. Sometimes new reasons to stay present themselves. Her words lingered in the air, unanswered. I refrained from pressing for clarification, but sensed the heaviness behind them. Our stroll continued aimlessly, ignoring our destination. We merely navigated the tranquil streets side by side. The conversation meandered as it usually did towards lesser, gentler subjects. Memories of childhood, preferred cuisines, and anecdotes from humbling first jobs were discussed. As we crossed a peaceful intersection, she gently touched my arm, diverting my path away from an approaching bicycle. Despite its simplicity, her touch left a comforting warmth on my skin. She seemed to notice my response, as she kept her hand for an instant too long. Neither of us spoke about it. In time, we reached her building. We stood close to the entrance, both somewhat uncertain. "I enjoyed tonight immensely," I said softly, almost not wanting to disturb the calm surroundings. "Me too," she replied, still in a subdued tone. A moment of silence passed, not awkward, but electric. Our eyes met, and for a brief instant, I pondered if she was anticipating my action, or perhaps I was wishing the same. Instead, she offered me the same small smile that always made my heart flutter and whispered, "Good night, Charlie. Good night, Emma." I watched her vanish into the building's door, my hands buried in my coat pockets, and my heart beating a bit faster than normal. The journey home took longer and quieter than usual that evening. We maintained a tranquil connection during the following week. Silence hung heavy, but a shift was palpable. We both sensed it. Prolonged glances and lengthier pauses marked our interactions without causing discomfort. It felt as if we were tiptoeing around an unspoken boundary that none of us wished to acknowledge. On Thursday, Emma walked into class with a large portfolio case, the project within raising my curiosity. "The client presentation is tomorrow," she stated casually as she settled in her seat. "Tonight's for last-minute tweaks." She let out a soft sigh and smiled. Yet, her preference was obvious. She would rather be here. The evening session unfolded as usual, but my focus wandered from my sketch to her. Despite her apparent fatigue, she managed to maintain her usual grace. Before I could speak up, she broke the silence after class. "Could you help me out?" she asked, gesturing towards the portfolio case. "It's heavier than I anticipated." We walked to her place, carrying her things, under the cool night's breath. The city hummed softly, yet the streets were mostly silent. Her apartment building, a tranquil mid-rise, was tucked away in one of those peaceful blocks that resembled a quaint hamlet rather than a bustling metropolis. She opened the door and turned to me. "Take your time if you're not rushed. Feel free to come upstairs for a bit. Just leave it inside." I hesitated momentarily, then agreed. Her apartment matched my expectations. Cozy, thoughtfully designed without pretense. Soft lighting, artwork on the walls, shelves filled with design books, and small travel souvenirs. It was lived in, yet peaceful. I like her. I placed my portfolio near her desk and took in the ambiance. "You have good taste," I said, a mix of jest and sincerity. She smiled, taking off her coat. "I guess that's part of the job." She vanished briefly into the kitchen before reappearing with 2 glasses of wine. "This is for you, as you assisted me in shouldering it all." She positioned herself on the couch beside me, her knees subtly nudging towards mine. The space between us seemed unacknowledged and overlooked. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, mirroring our usual ease. However, tonight there was a palpable weight. Her gaze held longer than usual and her tone softened. We both fell silent simultaneously, neither looking away. I could feel my heart rate increase, wrestling with an internal dilemma of either moving closer or staying still. She then subtly adjusted, bringing us closer. Her knee brushed against mine, remaining there. In a hushed voice, she confessed, "I find it easy to talk with you. Did you know that my throat feels parched when I'm with you? I feel the same way." A pause ensued, lasting long enough to seem intentional. The tension between us was tangible, like a thread on the verge of snapping. Drawing nearer until our faces scarcely had an inch between them, I searched her eyes for a sign to retreat, but none came. When at last I leaned in, she moved towards me as well. The initial kiss was tender, almost shy. All reservations dissipated when her hand caressed my cheek, bringing us closer together. We kissed leisurely, savoring the gradual unfolding of our intimacy. There was no urgency, no clumsiness. Only the persistent, quiet yearning that had grown within me over weeks allowed me to breathe. After a while, she pulled back slightly, her forehead pressing gently against mine as her eyes closed. She whispered, "I wasn't sure if we were going to step over that line." I softly confessed, "Neither was I, but I am glad we did." She smiled, her hand resting on my chest. "I concur." The rest of the night passed serenely, though I won't claim we only talked. The tender touch of her fingers on my arm, her leaning into me, unsaid words echoed louder than any spoken ones ever could. As dawn broke, soft light seeped through her curtains. Her head was nestled against my shoulder, her breath steady and rhythmic. My jacket remained slung over the chair, my shoes by the door, with no urgency to leave. The night we spent together brought a shift in us, not dramatic or spectacular, but subtle and tangible, more authentic than anything else. We continued going to class, sitting in our usual spots, exchanging glances filled with deeper significance. Yet now, when class ended, it was seldom a matter of if I would walk her home. It had become customary. The evenings after school, however, underwent alterations. On occasion, we would cook together at her place. Nothing fancy, just simple dinners. She moved effortlessly through the kitchen, her hair loosely tied back, humming softly as she chopped vegetables and simmered sauces. I stayed nearby, feigning assistance, but primarily watching her. Her smile at her minor mistakes was charming, and she'd catch my gaze, giving me a brief, teasing look that hinted at her insight into my thoughts. One evening, we prepared dinner together, grilling salmon with an impromptu salad. Following our meal, we spent hours on the couch, conversing about various topics, ranging from work troubles to childhood memories, even debating over what constitutes the perfect breakfast. At one point, I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, and she settled comfortably against me, neither of us feeling compelled to disrupt the quiet. The effortlessness of our interaction was soothing. Yet, there was always a subtle undercurrent of tension, not unpleasant or awkward, merely palpable. Our closeness had lost its novelty, yet each interaction maintained a subtle excitement. Her hand would rest on my knee as she laughed, while I lightly traced her arm when we were seated together. The evenings usually concluded with her pulling me nearer, her voice softer and more affectionate. We both acknowledged the silence of words. However, we never explicitly discussed what this was. Neither of us used terms like relationship or dating. It was merely our connection. For a moment, it became apparent only once on her balcony under the peaceful summer night. The streetlights cast a radiant glow on her face as she leaned against me, holding a glass of wine. "This isn't what I thought it would be," she murmured softly to herself. I looked at her intently. What do you imply? She offered a slight smile. When I signed up for the class, I hoped to meet new people, make friends. This unexpected development was something I hadn't anticipated. I remained patient, giving her space to continue if she chose to. Eventually, she subtly looked at me and said, I hadn't expected you. The way she spoke carried a genuine tone. It wasn't dramatic or heavy, but honest. I softly squeezed her hand in return. Nor was I replied. She smiled once more, and we found ourselves in a tranquil silence. We shared an unspoken understanding. Neither of us understood where this was headed, but neither were prepared to abandon it. While my colleagues likely envisioned my nights as serene and routine, they had no inkling of the late nights spent at her apartment, the casual way she'd run her fingers through my hair as we watched old films, or waking up to the tender sensation of her body nestled beside mine. As the initial light seeped through her blinds, we were creating something, though we didn't yet know what that was. And, for now, that sufficed. Deep within me, I sensed this tranquility wouldn't persist for much longer. I unintentionally encountered him one Saturday morning. I often spent nights at Emma's apartment, maintaining secrecy about our frequent visits. As usual, I woke up early and prepared coffee for us while she slept on. The city stirred gradually with the clinking traffic lights, occasional dog walkers, and the customary city noise barely audible. I sipped my coffee by her kitchen window overlooking the city when a black SUV crossed from the opposite street. A tall, well-dressed man emerged from the vehicle, his attire indicative of wealth and habit. Around middle age, he had a neat haircut, an expensive timepiece, and a stiff posture. He paused on the pavement for a while, scrutinizing Emma's building as if debating something. Then, his eyes met mine at the window, a brief recognition crossing his gaze before he moved on. A few moments passed, and the buzzer rang. Emma signed deeply, donning her robe, and glanced toward the door. That's him, she mentioned softly. Your former partner, I inquired. She nodded, rubbing her temples. Don't worry, you don't have to leave, I'll handle it. But I couldn't resist. I retreated to the bedroom to give them privacy. I had no intention of causing issues, but I was eager to hear their conversation. Their voices were low, yet distinct. Emma, you're not returning my calls because there's nothing to talk about, Mark, she said calmly, yet assertively. A silence followed. Then he spoke coldly, but deliberately. Do you comprehend the rumors I hear things? I don't care what you hear, she retorted bluntly. You're seeing someone. His voice grew colder. Are you truly doing this? The phrase about the kid hit me harder than expected. Kid? Emma maintained her composure. It's none of your concern who I spend time with now. Another pause ensued. His voice grew quiet, barely audible. Shortly after, the front door clicked shut. I hesitated before re-entering the living room. Emma was by the window, her arms loosely crossed, gazing into the street as his SUV departed. Are you all right? I asked tentatively. She faced me, her eyes weary yet unwavering. Yes, he persists in thinking he influences my life. I moved towards her and gently rested my hands on her waist. Would you like to talk about it? She shook her head slightly, smiling subtly. Not particularly, not at this moment. I kissed her forehead and allowed her to lean against me for a while. We didn't revisit the topic that day, but I knew it lingered silently between us. From then on, it became increasingly challenging to ignore the sensation of being perceived as existing outside our isolated universe. One evening in Rittenhouse Square, I noticed Emma pulling her hand away from mine when someone came too near. She wasn't avoiding me due to embarrassment. a feeling I had never sensed from her. Instead, it seemed she preferred to maintain a certain distance, particularly around her ex. However, when we were alone, the world felt insignificant. That night, she returned to her apartment and stood at the window, gazing softly outside. I approached from behind, wrapping my arms around her waist. She relaxed into my embrace, letting out a soft sigh. "I don't want him influencing your thoughts," she whispered. "He's not," I murmured into her hair. "I comprehend what this is. I understand what we are." She turned to face me, her expression tender yet hiding deeper thoughts, as if making a personal choice. Her fingertips gently traced my jawline, bringing me closer until our lips met. The tension outside those walls seemed to vanish, at least for that night, and that was sufficient for the moment. Over the following 2 weeks, our interactions became more regular. They were not easy or carefree, but stable. We spent a lot of time together. Our routine transformed into an instinct, encompassing drawing classes, tranquil dinners at her residence, and leisurely mornings sipping coffee while neither of us were in a rush to depart from the bed. Time seemed to stretch within our small sphere as the city continued its usual pace outside. We seldom discussed Mark following that day. He lingered on the outskirts, sending messages she ignored and occasionally trying to disturb her peace. Yet, we ceased acknowledging him. He was absent from this space. On a Saturday, Emma suggested we venture to the city's outskirts for some fresh air. It was one of those vibrant early spring evenings when Philadelphia started discarding winter's grip. We found ourselves in a hidden park,